The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
I promised it yesterday, we'll do it today. You guys will be fine. Everybody's going to be fine. There's nothing rushed happening in the offseason here. We can talk about Kevin Durant today. Don't worry. It's all going to be fine. Dan Besbris, Brandon Marcus. It's Wednesday on Fantasy NBA Today. Brandon on his graveyard shift schedule these days. Good morning, sir. You all right over there?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Can we just discuss that last line before we start recording? Where you said if I have to sniffle, I'll turn off my mic.
That's what I said right before I hit the record button. I did say if I have to sniffle, I'll turn off my mic. This is sort of you can put that on my tombstone someday.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Or business card. Maybe that should be my business card. Dan Besbris, broadcaster. If I have to sniffle, I'll turn off my mic.
That's your catch line.
That's my.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
If I have to sniffle, I'll turn off my mic.
That actually is kind of a sweet sign off. I might be appropriating that. At this point, I need to lean into it, don't I?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just embrace it.
I have fully embraced it. I said it on yesterday's podcast, actually, of all times, when I was talking to Neil about calf issues and how I pulled a calf in high school and I walked funny for a week and everybody called me Old Man Besbris and I kind of became Old Man Besbris. You know, the nicknames stick and sometimes you just become them.
And you've just added on characteristics to that as we've gotten.
Yes, I have.
Characteristics.
I have the spear. I need my Centrum Silver to get my day started over here. I have the spirit. I have the spirit and the gastrointestinal system of an 85-year-old. But I have the constitution of a... No, that's not true. I have the metabolism of like a 14-year-old, though. So at least I got...
Me too. Let's embrace that, buddy.
That's right. Everybody's like, you're going to get big and fat someday from all those Pop-Tarts you eat. And I'm like, all right, well... Until that day,
still waiting.
Still going to eat all these Pop-Tarts, and they're probably right, and I'm probably going to give myself diabetes, but here we are. So, Screw it. Anyway, we have the Boston Celtics on tap for today, but I feel like we got to do Kevin Durant first, right? Otherwise, we're kind of burying the lead. KD's injury, Neil and I recorded the Tuesday show basically right at the moment that game ended, so it was still like... You know, it seems like it's an Achilles. We don't know. He's out, blah, blah, blah. And then like a half an hour later, they're like, it is Achilles. And then like an hour after that, it's everybody's petrified. It's torn. And so then I'm editing the podcast and getting ready to post the thing and going, this is not going to be accurate. So, you know, I sent out a tweet about it. I put a little disclaimer at the beginning of yesterday's show saying, we're going to talk KD tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is now today, to almost do a Spaceballs line here on the show. This is, forget even just the, I mean, okay, fine. We can talk about what it means for the finals, but I mean, this is a massive deal for the entire offseason. This was the premier free agent, he or Kawhi, I guess, going into June 30th this year, not July 1st. To me, it shakes up almost everything that's going to happen in free agency. And maybe I'm overestimating. What do you think?
I don't think we know. I really don't. And all signs point to teams being a little scared of giving him now that 4-year max, because that's the most they can give now, apart from the Warriors, who can give him 5 years. The Supermax, other teams are giving him 4, and one of those years he's not going to play. So you're really only getting him for 3 years, and you're basically paying him, it's a rough estimate, about $50 million per year if you're going to do that, if you get rid of that year where he's not playing. So now you wonder, does the most logical move really become him opting into that last year, getting that money, and then becoming a free agent the following year? And apparently that's his now like option Z. He preferred not to do that at all. And I don't blame him. He obviously wants to get the max, and there are rumors out there that teams will still give him that max. But, man, I would be scared to do that. I'm obviously in the camp where I'd love to get Kawhi on the Clippers, and I would have liked KD, but I'm not shelling out that money for him anymore. I love Kevin Durant, but give me an example of a guy who's come back from an Achilles injury and been the same. Obviously, Kobe was much older, but guys like Rudy Gay, I just don't know players that come back from an Achilles injury and they're the same player.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing how long it's taking Boogie to get any of his legs underneath him, and he hurt something else trying to come back from the Achilles, maybe potentially too soon. We don't know. This is why I feel like it changes everything. Because, okay, so you mentioned the two scenarios, and I agree that they are basically the two that are on the table. It's either opting into Golden State short term and then kind of, I guess that falls under does that fall under the heading of kind of betting on yourself? Like you take your year off and then you just test free agency and you hope you can, do a workout for a team? Is that kind of what that is?
You would think. I mean, that's what Boogie obviously did, and he took a lot less money than what KD would get in his final year.
Right, but how much does Boogie get next season? He hasn't looked that great.
That's an interesting question. I think that'll be fascinating as well because there are stupid teams out there. So you would think that there will be a team that'll give him $20 million a year, just a matter of how many years, because he could easily go on a really bad team and put up numbers. I mean, he was putting up good numbers. Let's not forget, before this whole playoff season started, he was doing pretty well during the regular season. So it's very possible that with this rest during the offseason, he becomes a player that can contribute, especially in fantasy.
So, someone's going to give Kevin Durant pretty big money, I would think. Even if, it seems likely he won't play a game next year, presumably. I guess we don't know for certain yet. But, so I don't know. Do you know and this is something I probably should have looked up before I said if I have to sniffle, I'll turn my mic down. When do players have to opt in to their player option year? What's the deadline on that?
Funny because speaking of the Celtics, apparently Kyrie had to do it by Thursday, and he is obviously not going to opt in. So that, I think it's in the next couple of days is when teams need to figure it out.
Okay, so it would be before the free agency period coming up.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so that'll answer a lot of our questions, I guess. We can do another one of these, 2 weeks from now when we know what he's decided. I kind of think that it's almost the same result either way, which, I don't know. So whatever your plan was as a team that was hunting KD, and it seemed like it was coming down to the Knicks and the Clippers. That's what it looked like. Maybe the Nets. It didn't seem like he really wanted to go with Kyrie to the Nets from these weird little rumors that leak out. So if you're the Knicks, okay, let's start with the Clippers because this is a team that you follow closely. If you're the Clippers now, I know you said you'd rather not mortgage the team for 1 year. Do you think the team wants to mortgage itself for a year? I get the feeling they probably still would.
I don't think so. I don't think that they would do that as much as Jerry West would like to. It just doesn't make sense. So then next year, you're going to have Kevin Durant on your books for $30+ million a year, and he's not going to play. So what are you doing? You're then going to be another 8 seed out in the West and then hope that he turns out to be the guy that he was pre-injury when he gets back, when he's 30, 31 years old.
So this makes me think, just hearing you talk about it from the perspective of one of the finalists to get him, that maybe that's how other teams might feel too. I know that the report that came out yesterday was that teams are not going to be deterred. I mean, there's a possibility that was put out by KD's agent. We don't really know. I know David Aldridge broke it, but you never know where these guys get their little tidbits from. It seems like the safe move for KD is to opt in with the Warriors. But again, we don't know what he's doing. So I'm talking in circles here a little bit. The point I was trying to get to there is, do you think the Knicks would? They're in kind of a different place than the Clippers. They could very easily offer him the max and say, sit out a year. We'll tank for one more season. We'll build up another asset. That to me feels maybe a little bit more likely.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, they've got that lottery pick this year, but let me put it to you this way. So right now, Kevin Durant is 30 years old. He'll turn 31 in September, which means that the next season he'll be 32 when he comes back. LeBron right now is 34. So you're telling me right now this guy is 32 years old coming off an Achilles injury, and you want to be putting that much money towards him? I love Kevin Durant, and he's one of the 3 best players right now in the NBA. But there's got to be some hesitation with the Achilles injury. I mean, there just has to be. This is not a guy that really relies a ton on explosion. Sure, he's able to, but he's just athletic and long, and he's a jump shooter. I just don't know. It's really tough because he obviously doesn't have the mileage that LeBron has because of the playoff minutes. But still, 32 years old, I'd be scared to do that. But the Knicks would make sense.
They would, but, and so this is the second half of that question, if he's not going to play for a year, what is the Knicks' impetus to go all in for this coming season? It feels like this was the guy they were going for. This was the guy they thought they could get. They were going to pair him with, I don't know, Kemba or Jimmy Butler or something like that. I mean, what's the point of the other half of that plan right now? It feels like this just wiped the Knicks off the table for a year.
Yeah, well, that's the issue. And then you wonder in 2020, who would you go towards? And
I haven't even gotten that far.
well, if you're the Knicks, you got to be thinking that far, right?
Yeah.
I mean, then same thing for the Clippers. You got to be thinking that far in advance because you're going to have money on your books with some players locked in, but you're also going to still have money to spend. And Porzingis is going to stay in Dallas. Al Horford, old. Klay Thompson's going to probably re-sign with Golden State. DeMar DeRozan, we've seen that. I'm not sure you could build a team around him to go to the title. Drummond, no. Draymond, no. And then Anthony Davis, the only time that you would actually consider him now is if he goes to a team like the Celtics, where the report came out today that if the Celtics got him, it would literally only be for 1 year.
Yeah, and so that kind of moves me to the end game here, which is this was, and I want to come back to Kevin Durant, circle back to him to try to figure out how this thing all plays out on his end again. But it almost feels like this injury, this awful thing that happened to Kevin Durant, and everybody's got their opinions on whether or not he should have been playing and blah, blah, blah. This injury feels like it kind of took one more team off the table in the Anthony Davis stuff in terms of the trickle-down effect, where the Knicks were going to be one of those clubs going hard for him to pair him up with somebody. But if that somebody was supposed to be Kevin Durant and he's not playing this coming year, and we don't even know if Anthony Davis would re-sign. I know he said the Knicks was one of his preferred destinations. I assume he meant that as a place to go to actually compete this coming season. This actually kind of helps the Lakers in this roundabout way, on top of what you just said of Rich Paul basically saying, F you Celtics, which as a Laker fan I think is freaking hilarious, but I know it's sort of I've seen the term scorched earth thrown around on Twitter a little bit. Anthony Davis to the Lakers seems slightly more likely now than it did a week ago.
Yeah, that still will be weird. I still don't think that Anthony Davis ends up with the Lakers. I just don't think that they'll end up finding a deal that works.
But they can't keep him. If they keep him, they get nothing.
No, they're not going to keep him. They're not going to keep him. He'll get traded somewhere. But it's always the team we don't expect.
Yeah, I saw somebody mention the Nuggets as like a mortgage everything, go for it right now kind of thing.
Dude, they've got assets. That's a team that really could do it. If you really want to go all in, you could. I mean, can you imagine them putting together a package of like Jamal Murray, maybe a guy like Barton or Harris, and then, I don't know, a couple picks. I mean, the picks won't be high enough. I do think that David Griffin's right. I think they're going to have to get a third team involved. Unless the Lakers are able to make a deal or something where they trade away Lonzo, get the number 6 pick, I believe it is, from Phoenix, and then you add that along with your number 4 pick, and then Kuzma, and then you maybe have something. But still, there's no guy in the Lakers right now that you can say is an all-star that you would trade. These guys are all potential players that could be all-stars.
Right, but if the Knicks are basically, I don't want to say they're backing out, because I'm sure they're still going to try to put something together. But to me,
I don't think the Knicks have enough either. The
they're
Knicks have Knox, who we don't know anything about. Mitchell Robinson, who's nice, but more nice in a fantasy perspective than he is as an actual basketball player.
Agreed.
At least right now. And then the picks. I mean, you really need to find a team. Honestly, the Clippers have the best possible thing you could send in terms of players ready to go right now. I know Gallinari's older, but Gallinari, Gilgeous-Alexander, that pick from Atlanta, not Atlanta, is it Atlanta 2021? No, Miami. The 2021 unprotected pick. I mean, they have the picks there, but I don't know. I really do think it's going to take a couple of teams to fulfill what David Griffin wants. But dude, this free agency is now a cluster. It really is a cluster. We thought we had it figured out. And now it opens up to where Durant could stay in Golden State. If Durant stays in Golden State, where will Anthony Davis go? Kyrie most likely is going to go to Brooklyn, but Kemba and KD were supposed to go to New York.
Yeah,
so
but
what's New York going to do?
The Kyrie thing is almost the only thing that seems logical right now. Like, everything else has gone completely to hell.
I don't think we know anything that's going to happen except for Kyrie to Brooklyn.
I
think that's the only thing that makes sense right now.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, where do we think? Well, okay, so let's screw it. Let's plant our flag in a few things. Let's have a little fun. I mean, what's the worst thing that happens? We get it wrong. Who gives a crap? Let's have a little fun with it. Where do you think Jimmy Butler's going?
Philadelphia.
You think he stays?
Yeah.
What about Tobias Harris then? I wasn't even going to bring him up, but now that we're in Philly, I might as well throw the other one in there.
See, that's the one I don't know. There's going to be a team that's going to want to throw some money towards him.
Yep.
And somebody that's got money. I mean, that's a guy that I could easily see a player like the I don't know, a team like the Lakers grabbing when they strike out on other people. Lakers or maybe the Knicks.
Yeah, that's very true. All right, forget Tobias Harris. I have no idea where he's going either.
That's too hard. That'll be a team that strikes out and ends up having to throw money at somebody, and then we look back in 3 or 4 years and we say, why the hell did they give him so much money? And we realize they just had money to spend. Yeah, that's true, because there are a lot of teams that are sitting on cash right now. Mountains of it. All right, so you think Jimmy Butler stays in Philadelphia. KD, you think stays in Golden State for the opt-in year? There's going to be a stupid team that's going to pay him. The more you talk about it, the more I think that New York is really an option.
Yep. That's where I think he's going still. I think he's going
to I'll say the Knicks.
I think he's going to camp out in New York for a season. They need something. They need a positive media story, even if he's not going to play. I mean, screw it. At that point, if you sign KD in New York for 4 years and, basically a -1, so +3 at the end of that thing, they would try to lose for another season, I would assume. There's no point in...
You can't add anybody else. You can't be stupid and add a guy like Tobias Harris, because if you do that, then you're screwing yourself over. You want to go into next year with Barrett, Knox, and Mitchell Robinson and just let those birds fly. And
lose a lot.
And get a top 5 pick. Exactly.
Right.
Give you a top 5 pick and add another pick that you could either put with KD or trade for an asset to get KD.
Yeah.
To pair with KD.
Yeah, just go buck wild the next offseason when you know KD's coming back, because it gives them their positive story. They'll have KD ready to come back. I still think he goes to the Knicks. That's my flag planting on the Kevin Durant thing, which to me then, this is why I brought up the Anthony Davis side. The logic, the thread that my head is going through here is, okay, well, if the Knicks then want to tank for one more year, there's no reason for them to go all in on Anthony Davis, at least not this season. They might then sit in the, okay, well, let's hope they don't send him to the Lakers. He goes somewhere like Boston, and then we could maybe sign him in free agency at the end of the year. So, if you're the Knicks, I think it takes one of the teams maybe out of the running for AD, which the Nets sort of did themselves by moving all those pieces. And you're left now with Dark Horse or Lakers, maybe Clippers. Doesn't sound like they're as committed to the AD sweepstakes. Yeah. And that's why I was thinking maybe he does end up in LA. I a month ago, I feel like I probably said on this podcast, I don't think there's any chance he ends up in as a Laker after all that crap. And now I'm kind of flip-flopping again. I feel like I'm moving back the other way. So where do you think Anthony Davis ends up? I actually do think he ends up as a Laker.
Brooklyn. I think they end up trading Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, a draft pick. They end up trading D'Angelo Russell to get another draft pick and putting together a package like that.
Well, they do have a good general manager, better than whatever the Lakers are trotting out there.
Yes.
Yikes, Lakers front office. Yikes.
Because then I don't know how much money Brooklyn will have at that point if they end up giving Kyrie and Anthony Davis the money that they want. Because there is a possibility that JJ Redick ends up going to Brooklyn too, because JJ lives in Brooklyn.
Well, once you get all these other guys,
made it pretty clear that you.
Yeah, I mean I think you were getting to the same point. Once you get all these other guys, then you build your LeBron James banana boat situation, and whatever old men are just sort of going to glom onto you for veterans minimum stuff. So that type of thing, rounding out a roster once you get 2 or 3 mega stars that's easy. Everybody's just going to gravitate to you. You're going to
but then at the same time, then you end up in a situation like the Warriors where everyone's giving them crap because they built their team to be 6 players.
Yep.
And put all the money into 6 players with no bench. So that's the issue when you end up going with 2 or 3 stars, that you end up screwing yourself if one of those guys gets hurt.
Yeah, I mean, and when the thing comes apart in that scenario also, when the stars get old or leave, you're left with the Cavs, which is not pretty. It's but I mean, you take your shots at this point. I think the hope for a lot of these teams is they can get one of the stars in this list that's a tiny bit younger, like an Anthony Davis who's still in their 20s or whatever, where when the old guys get old, you can try to bring in some dudes around the one that's, still sort of mid to late prime at that point. Kemba Walker.
By the way, I would. I'm going to interrupt you really quick. I would, if I'm the Clippers, I think I would trade for Anthony Davis.
You should.
You know if these guys are going to end up being all-stars. You don't know if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be an all-star. He's a really nice player right now. He's the potential to be. You don't know what that 2021 pick is going to end up being. You have all these things that are wild cards, and Anthony Davis is a sure thing. I mean, we saw how good he is. So I think I would do it. But we'll have to see. By the way, before we move on to the next thing, something that just broke in NBA world that you'll be interested in as someone that loves the University of California, Berkeley. Their women's head coach, Lindsay Gottlieb, is going to be an assistant coach on John Beilein's staff in Cleveland.
Oh, good for her. That's awesome. That's sad for my Bears, but that's awesome for her. She's been at Cal for a while. Yeah, that's
first women's collegiate head coach recruited to an NBA coaching staff.
That's outstanding. Good for Cleveland.
Yeah.
Good for Beilein. Good for Gottlieb. Good for everybody. Cool for Cal, but also kind of sad for Cal. It's I look at that from both sides. Go Bears. That's what I'll leave it at that. Go.
You were
Bears.
going to say Kemba. So Kemba, by the way, that's
Kemba.
a fun one too, because everyone thought Kemba and KD were going to end up in New York.
Yeah, and now we think Kemba's supermaxing, relaxing, all cool.
Does he go back to Charlotte?
That's the last thing I heard, that he wants to take the 200 some odd million. But that's man. So, oh boy, I have to choose my words carefully here, because I was about to say that's a sad existence playing for a team whose salary cap situation is as brutal as the Hornets. But also, if you're making $215 million over 5 years, that's not that sad of an existence. I think I'd be okay with being a mediocre team if somebody gave me $50 million to do it. I know these guys are wired differently than I am, though, so maybe that's the thing. I always had this weird inkling that the Lakers were going to end up with Kemba when they didn't get the Kawhis, the KDs. They were going to make a run at let's be honest. Kemba's very, very good at basketball, but he's not one of the top 2 or 3 free agents on the market. He's like a top 5 guy this year. But he would fit pretty well around LeBron James. He would just have to give up like $100 million to do it.
Would you be happy giving that money to Kemba?
Well, at that point, I'd assume that the Lakers have something else lined up. Because if it's just LeBron and Kemba and then the young core, that seems silly. I think my hope there would be that there was a trade either for Beal or Anthony Davis that happened also.
Beal. Interesting.
I like Bradley Beal. I like him a lot. He seems like a wonderful fit near LeBron also.
Yeah, I feel like Washington has to trade him.
It
makes no sense to hold on to him.
And they're going to hold on to him, because if we've learned anything about the Wizards at this point, it's that they're going to probably do the wrong thing.
Yeah, get assets and suck for a couple of years and be good again after that. But that's ugly. Yeah, I'd be worried about playing against the Lakers with Kemba, AD, and LeBron. That's a damn good team.
Yeah, I like that sound a lot. They wouldn't have much else around them. That would be, plug and chug 40-year-olds in all the other spots on the roster. But
you mean like Lance Stevenson and JaVale McGee and those folks?
Hey, you know what? I'll take JaVale and his fanny pack back in L.A. That was pretty sweet.
Rajon Rondo as the backup point guard again?
No, that I will not do. I will not suffer through another year of Rajon Rondo at point guard. I assume if the Lakers traded for... Well, I don't know. Okay, so Lonzo's gone. I think if the Lakers make this Anthony Davis trade, it sounds like they can probably keep like one of their creatures, like Josh Hart or Kuzma are probably the two that one of those two ends up staying in LA. So one other spot on the floor might be occupied by a younger basketball player. This is crazy, man. I don't even think we hit all the free agents, and this is insane.
Yeah, no, there's more. There's plenty more. There are guys that are going to be relevant too.
By the way, as we're recording this, the Lakers Nation, what is that? The SB Nation site for the Lakers tweeted that the Lakers are very interested in Kemba Walker heading into free agency. That tweet came after we said it here. Yeah. Okay, you want to talk Boston Celtics? I mean, this is probably KD stuff is probably more fun, but we should talk
Celtics.
Celtics.
Know who's going to be on that team next year?
No, I have no idea. It sounds like they want to redo Al Horford's contract, so he'll probably still be there. Gordon Hayward's going to be there because, why wouldn't you take your $66 million over the next 2 seasons?
Yeah.
I assume Jason Tatum's going to be there unless they do the Anthony Davis thing.
Yeah, and then Jaylen Brown's going to be there for 1 more year at least.
Yeah, I don't like his fantasy game. Go Bears, but I don't like his game.
Yeah, he's a guy that's a top 100 guy that's really boring. That'll get you 15 points and 8 rebounds in a game, but then he'll come back the next game and give you 7 points and 2 rebounds, and you want to throw him off the ledge.
Yeah, let's assume that Kyrie's gone. I think we can safely assume that, right?
Yeah, then fire up Jason Tatum and give me all the Jason Tatum stock.
Yeah, I kind of want a lot of these guys that were right on the cusp. Marcus Smart could actually be a really interesting fantasy player with no Kyrie next year.
You love steals. You love yourself that defensive stat.
I do heart defensive stats. So this last year, Marcus Smart falls into that category of kind of the Dan Besbris old man stuff, even though he's not an old guy.
I was just about to say, do you know how old he is?
Not old at all. He's like, isn't he like 24?
He's 25.
He's 25. Yeah, I knew he was very young still.
Holy cow, dude. He's still so young.
Yeah, and he's built like a brick house too. So he's I think he could be really interesting. So normally I would say, screw the Celtics as a Laker guy, and I often said that about their fantasy prospects. I figured there were just too many mouths to feed. But that was their problem last year, and the mouths are going to get easier to feed now because Kyrie's gone. I would assume Marcus Morris is probably gone. Terry Rozier sounds like he wanted out, but maybe now he gets a starting gig with no Kyrie, so I don't know about that one. They'll probably bring him back, I would think. I guess I don't know. Terry Rozier, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Gordon Hayward. Is that the starting 5 with Jaylen Brown coming off the bench? Maybe. It's tough to say.
Yeah, it's possible. They're going to sign somebody. So they'll end up adding somebody to that group because they're not going to be a team that's just Hayward, Horford, Smart, Tatum, Brown, Rozier, whatever it is. I mean, that's a team that, sure, it made some noise this current season last year, but I don't know. They don't have enough.
I don't believe they would have enough for a max, though, when Kyrie comes off the books, right? Because he was only making $20 million this year.
Yeah, he's slated to make 21.3,
which he'll opt out of.
Yeah, so they'll have some money. It doesn't help when you have $62 million tied to Hayward and Horford.
Yeah, that Hayward money is not looking great. Well, are you drafting Gordon Hayward next year? I might actually.
No.
I guess it depends on how far he falls for me. So you're a no almost regardless.
Yeah, it's the injury stuff again. I mean, you have no idea, what he's going to play like. If he looks good in the preseason, then I'll go after him. I need to see that he has the ability to continue to put up 20-plus every single night. Because last year, his scoring was awful. I mean, sure, he had some games here and there, but he needs to show me that he's the guy that was playing in Utah and was the max guy, because he didn't show me that. And if he falls far enough, sure, he's maybe a guy I can get in, I don't know, the 8th or 9th round. If he falls that far, I have no idea where he's going to go, because that's a weird guy to project. But that's a guy maybe that can end up as a top 20 player that you get in the 8th or 9th round.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking I might even take him as high as like 75 if he's fallen that far. I don't know where he's going to go. He has such name value, but he was terrible last year. He was finished at number 118 in 9-cat, and he was drafted generally in the 50s and 60s. So I'm thinking people have kind of a bad taste in their mouth. But if Kyrie's
118,
yeah, higher than you would have thought, right?
Yeah, way higher than I would have thought.
He just didn't do anything horribly. He gave you the okay numbers in a lot of different spots, but nothing good, but also nothing bad. Like, he shot 47% from the field, 83 at the line, just over a three-pointer, 12, 4, and 4, basically, with a steal and less than 2 turnovers a game. So nothing he did was like, oh, that was pretty cool, but everything he did was fine. And if you're fine in 8 out of 9 categories, you're going to be, a 125 type of guy. So he could, but that's the thing, you said it. He's a guy that could leap up the charts with Kyrie gone. If there's, 1 year removed now, he's been able to take an off season to kind of keep getting right, getting his footing back, the sea legs, all that stuff. He only played 26 minutes a game last year. If that comes up to 30 or 31, with all the things that click together, I think he could easily get inside the top 50, and if you could get him at 75 or later, to me, that's a guy I might actually take a chance on. But he might also just get drafted in the 50s again because his name is Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, if that's the case, I wouldn't go after him. But I'm starting to kind of backpedal a little bit here, knowing that he finished at 118. I would have thought that he finished way lower than that. I thought he was garbage last year.
He was. For a long... He had like a month in there where he was better.
He got dropped by many teams last year. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy because if he ends up having that usage rate go up, because obviously there's going to be a usage rate that's going to go up with Kyrie gone. A lot of these players are going to have to pick up his numbers and his minutes, and he shows that he's healthy. If he shows me during the preseason that he's healthy and he's the guy that he could be, I'd be happy grabbing him in 60 to 70.
I'm with you on that one. I'm going to give you my list of guys here, and then we'll do it that way because I think we can knock it out in a more organized fashion. I have so many things that started to hit me when I looked at the Celtics team. I am not drafting Terry Rozier, even if they bring him back. I don't like his stat set. I think he's overrated. He's never shot above 40% from the field in his career, and I think he's a guy that could actually hurt you almost as much as he helps. I'm looking at Gordon Hayward's ADP, as we just talked about. I think if he's a guy that falls, I'd take a shot at him. Marcus Smart is probably the guy I'm most excited about in the post-Kyrie Celtics world, provided they don't bring in another shooting guard type. Because if his 9 points a game, basically if everything for him goes up a tiny bit, he jumps from top 80 to top 60. Jason Tatum, I think, is going to get drafted really high. So I'd love to have him, but I don't think I'm going to get him. And Al Horford, I think, is going to be awesome next year. I think people are going to forget about him again. He's going to get drafted in the 40s again, and he's going to finish inside the top 30 again. And I think I'm going to have Al Horford on like every single one of my fantasy teams because he also fits the Dan Besbris does everything mold without hurting you anywhere. That's my take on the Celtics for next year. You want to give me your breakdown?
Horford's also 33, so that's something to be weary of.
That's okay. He doesn't jump.
He also showed some signs of decline last year. He got hurt, and then he was sitting out a lot of games. I'm not convinced he's going to play more than 60, 65 games.
That's a good point. If I can get him up near what he was this last year at 68, I think I'd scoop him up there.
Yeah. Marcus Smart, by the way, you're fine with his field goal percentage?
Yeah, he got it up to 42 this year.
Yeah, but are you convinced that that's where it's going to stay, considering the year before he was at 36.5?
I'm going to have to hope so. Because at this point, I don't think he's going to get drafted early, so I don't think I'm going to have to spend like a top 50 on him. I think if I could get Marcus Smart in that same range we just talked about Hayward, no man's land, it's another upside grab. If the field goal percent sticks and his minutes and usage go up, then everything is beautiful. And if it doesn't, he's only taking 7 to 10 shots per game. So it's actually it's a little easier to knock that out. This is what worries me about Rozier. He's such a gunner. If he gets in there and takes 13, 14 shots a game and misses all of them, he doesn't have the upside that Smart has because of Smart's steals and other things that he brings to the table, mostly the defensive stuff. I just think Terry Rozier is going to get overdrafted. If people are like, starting point guard, grab him now, then I'm not going to get him.
Yeah. Jason Tatum, do you know where he ended up last year?
57, 5'7". On a per
I'm looking.
game.
I obviously don't have the per game thing. Is that where he was? 57?
Yeah, 40 by totals this last year. He played in 79 out of 82 games.
Which is crazy. I mean, so that's what, a third rounder next year?
Number 40? Yeah, I guess he'd be early fourth round. I think he'll go earlier. I think he gets drafted around 40 next year. I think that's a pretty reasonable spot to expect. He feels like he's growing. I know his scoring is better, but his fantasy game reminds me a little bit of Otto Porter's fantasy game. So jack in a bunch of aggressiveness into Otto Porter, and you could have a pretty good fantasy player. I mean, the issue for Jason Tatum this year, at least in my opinion, was that he was getting pushed to the periphery by guys that were more aggressive than him, namely Kyrie Irving.
Well, he wasn't like that when Kyrie wasn't there, though. That's the only thing. So I think that he was amazing without Kyrie. I would take him in the third round. It's freaking crazy, but I would take him in the third.
I think I'd need to wait till the fourth, and I may not get him because of that. But you're right. I mean, the upside's there. There's a top 25 upside with this dude because he does a lot of things really well also.
Yeah.
So I'm not telling you you're crazy. I'm just, you know me. I do all my fantasy stuff, with muscles clenched.
This is also another team you can't really predict yet because you have no idea what they're going to do. I mean, there's obviously no Kyrie, and you just don't know who's going to be on that roster.
Right, like if they ship all of these guys for an Anthony Davis rental, then all of this changes. To me, it feels like with the money they're going to have, they're not going to bring in the massive volume impact guy. And so I think we can assume that of Kyrie's nearly 19 shots a game, most of those are going to end up with the guys that are already here.
Anthony Davis doesn't even make sense, by the way, to go there. It makes zero sense for him to go there. Because what's he going to do? You're going to pair him with Gordon Hayward and Al Horford? No.
The Gordon Hayward-Anthony Davis combo was the one we had always envisioned.
Yeah, no, he that's not happening. I don't know why Boston's still in the conversation. Boston was in the conversation when they had Kyrie. There's no reason for them to be in the conversation when they don't have Kyrie.
Yeah, the words you're saying are music to this Laker fan's ears. The fact that I didn't have to say them, it's a big win for me on this podcast. It's a
there
big
you
win.
go.
Yeah, I mean, if I have to sniffle, I'll turn my mic down and all that. So here's the thing. Here's my wrap-up thoughts on the Celtics. I don't think I've had a Boston Celtic on my fantasy team in like 2 years, basically since Kyrie got down. I know he didn't play much the first year he was there, but most of what I had game planned for was him being the focal point and me not trusting Kyrie's health, and I feel good about that decision. And then too many mouths to feed. I don't think I had a single Boston Celtic. I had, you know what? That's a lie. I had Marcus Morris for like a month and a half this last year.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
On and off the roster. If you put it all together, it was like a month and a half's worth of Marcus Morris.
I had Horford and Kyrie in two separate teams. I traded for Kyrie in what was a trade that I had to make because it was too easy. And then I had Horford, and he was solid. I mean, he's a guy that's really underrated and puts up good numbers.
Yeah.
Points, rebounds, assists. He'll get a game with 5 blocks. So I liked him a lot.
He's
and
great.
Then I had Terry Rozier whenever Kyrie sat. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's your streamer guy. And Kyrie and Horford were both outstanding when they were on the floor, but like you said, they both missed 14, 15 games, so you had that kind of hanging on you. This next year, I think, is a year I end up with some Celtics. The too many mouths to feed issue for me is probably coming off the table. So this will be. I'm a man of Brew likes to talk about depressed assets, where Boston, I think, had a lot of depressed assets because of how many guys they were trying to trot out there. And with 2 or 3 of those dudes removed from the equation, people that rubbed fantasy owners the wrong way are going to get underdrafted, and I want to be there to scoop them up. That's my bow on the Boston Celtics. It sounds to me like you're if you're in a league with Brandon Marcus, you're going to have to take Jason Tatum real freaking early.
Yeah.
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 He's quiet.
We'll see who's there. It really depends who's there. Because there are guys that are going to fall that are pretty good. So I don't know. We'll see who's there.
Yeah. I'm going to have a few. Continued saga, the continued Kevin Durant free agent saga. We'll get to all that stuff. Brandon, you and I only have one more post-mortem together. We'll obviously have other things to talk about as the offseason rumbles along. But next week, Wednesday, we will be talking things got moved around a little bit here. The Milwaukee Bucks. This post-mortem, I think the schedule was made before the last 2 or 3 games of the year. The Raptors got flipped on the hoop ball post-mortems. I didn't realize this until the very end. Raptors got flipped with the Bucks because I think Panda wanted to make sure he was doing the post-mortem on them. So we're doing it slightly out of order next week. We'll be talking Milwaukee. That should be a fun one.
I'm excited.
Get excited. Tomorrow, Neil Rochlani will be covering the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't know who his co-host is. He's keeping us on our toes. Adrian Coach will break down the Rockets on Friday. That's the rest of this week on Fantasy NBA Today. Brandon, I don't think I gave your Twitter handle out. So you want to tell people where they can follow you? I don't know. I never let you just like do your stuff. I always step on everyone's toes.
You normally just say it's at BD Marcus.
I know.
So there you go. At BD Marcus is.
I know. I feel
me on the Twitter.
I feel bad about it sometimes though because I'm like,
why? Oh, you're supposed to say that stuff.
I know, but you're a co-host. I can't. That's what I do for guests. I don't have to give all your stuff out. You can do these things. Crap. For goodness sake. I'm stepping on everybody's toes here. I like that your last tweet, by the way, was Alex Morgan waving. Also, go Bears.
It's good. And I realized after the fact, by the way, that I could have had a really clever line if I would have said, hey, Alex, how many goals do you have? Because she was waving all 5 fingers. That would have been even better. And I was like, I already tweeted it. I'm screwed. I already did. Just leave it.
What was the final score of that game with Thailand? 13-0?
13-0, yeah.
Nil. Sorry, I got to get my lingo right. 13-0 on a pitch. Yeah, it's not a field. It's a pitch.
It was a down. Exactly, on the pitch, and it was a match that USA won. By the way, I'm very good with them scoring the 13 goals. I just don't think they should have celebrated like they won the World Cup when they scored goal number 11, 12, and 13. Like at that point.
There's U.S. women's national team games going right now, folks. That's what we're talking about. I don't really keep up with soccer basically at all. But I do love when former Cal Bears do cool stuff, and Alex Morgan is one of those. And Lindsey Gottlieb is another, who you mentioned on the pod, so that's pretty good.
You mean football, not soccer. Football, nonsense.
No, I can't do that. We're in the States. I got to call it soccer.
I'm
wait.
I can't do it all the time. I can't fully throw myself at that
yet. Someday maybe, but not yet.
Yeah, maybe one day.
He told you his Twitter handle, so I'm not going to repeat it. I'm at Dan Besbris. This has been a Hoopball and Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee presentation. If talking about free agency doesn't wake you up, Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee will. HawaiianIsles.com, at HI Kona Coffee on Twitter. Get it on Amazon Prime. All these websites are doing next day delivery right now. You can get it to your doorstep by tomorrow, mañana. And with that, I bid you all adieu. I mean, I don't think we have anything else going on tonight, right? In the game tomorrow, I lose track of these things.
Yeah, the game's tomorrow, and if you need to talk, and I'll just take over. You can, if you need to blow your nose, you
I was thinking about. I should have signed off with that line.
You should have done that. Come on.
I used it earlier in the podcast, so now I can't do it. Just suffice it to say that right after we go off air, I'm going to be sniffling. People who can count on that. He's Brandon. I'm Dan. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Ball game tomorrow. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I think Toronto's probably going to wrap it up tomorrow. Hey, quickly, what do you think? Toronto going to wrap it up tomorrow?
Yep, it's over. I think we're forgetting how good Toronto is, and I still remember I said this before the series started. Toronto is the only team that did not lose to Golden State during the regular season. That stuff matters.
There you go. Have a good Wednesday, or a great one, or an okay one. So long.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.